Day 177, just dropped my daughter off at voice class. My wife is out getting her nails done, and there are some things I want to talk about. So I said, what better time than now to make a video? Some of these things could be super helpful, but I had a realization today at my daughter's soccer game. And I want to share a glitch that happened last night. So trippy. But first, I want to start with a conversation that I had with my daughter yesterday. And I've talked on here a little bit about, the definitions. Everything starts with we come into the world as a blank canvas. And then we start defining stuff as good or bad, or this is what I want, this is what I don't want. And so when you do that over and over again, you keep giving something the same definition. It becomes a belief. And attached to that belief will be an emotion. So when that thing happens, you associate it as being good, so you feel a positive emotion. But when something happened, like something bad or something that you've defined as bad, if that thing doesn't happen, then you've given the opposite association to it. By defining it this way, you are actually also defining it the other way, as that when it doesn't happen, when the opposite happens, it's bad. So then that belief is attached to a negative emotion. And that is literally everything. Okay? Anything can be good and anything can be bad. Just think about it. Anything. And so yesterday, my daughter we were sitting, I think we were eating dinner, and she brings up this kid that she doesn't really talk to, but somehow he came up in the conversation, and she started getting angry talking about this kid. And the deeper I dove into it, asking questions, I found out that, she's upset about something that happened a year and a half ago that this kid did, and then got his father involved, and she was feeling it like it was happening to her in that moment. And I said, Peyton, first of all, she's 9 years old and he's, I think, the same age. And then so a lot can change in a year and a half, and she hasn't really talked to him since then. I said, Peyton, here's how it works. Okay? You've chosen to give this situation and whatever happened between you and him, you've defined it this way. And so once you define it this way as bad, anytime this comes up in your mind, you've associated it as being bad, and so that is attached to a negative emotion. And so that's why you're feeling angry or frustrated or whatever you're feeling right now, this negative emotion. I said, but right now that we're talking about this is a spotlight shining down on this definition that you've given this. And you have an opportunity right now, at this moment, to change the definition. And once you change this definition, if you change it to something that and see it in a way that could benefit you, or even like, oh, well, he was only 7, I was at fault just as much as he was. Anything. You can change it right now. And once you change that, the next time this comes up, if you remind yourself that you've changed that definition, that is now going to be attached to a different emotion, even if it's neutral, even if you're just like whatever. But now it will no longer be attached to a negative emotion, so you won't have to feel this negative energy. And this is literally how you can do it with everything. Any person. that you're feeling anytime you see them, you feel like this negative emotion, just go through your list of people that you work with or in your family. You feel that way because you've defined them, your definition, the way you've defined them, or the way you have currently defined them, has become a belief that makes you feel that negative emotion. And that negative emotion is what? It's telling you that, hey, you have a belief that is not serving you. And if you do this over and over and over again, that's where you end up kind of in this neutral space where I am, but I can see everything so much clearer because I'm not attached. My time and my energy isn't being filled up with these negative emotions because I know how to detach from them now. And anytime they come up, I'm just like, okay, I can do this. I've done this over and over and over again. I can do this with this. And once you know how to do it, it doesn't matter how big or how small that emotion is, because it's like once you know how to defuse a bomb, okay, now you know how to defuse a bomb. It doesn't matter if it's an atom bomb or just a firecracker. You know how to defuse it. And so I thought that was really interesting, and I was thinking about it as I was telling her. And then after I told her, you could see her just like kind of like sitting there, just digesting it. And so that was pretty sweet. And then last night, here's a glitch that I wanted to talk about. So on, what's today? Saturday. Thursday afternoon, I got this thought, just like that video I made about that Pink song that was just like playing in my head. I used to be a DJ and I was really into club music in my probably late teens, early 20s. And there was this one song, it was I probably haven't heard it in 15 years, but it just like popped into my head. And it was by this, I don't even know, I think there maybe a DJ, maybe a group, I don't even know, I just like this song. But anyway, they're called Sosh, and it's called Together Again is the song. And so I didn't know what it was immediately, but I investigated and I finally found it. YouTube is like the greatest, okay, where you can just type in like guesses and then like finally it pops up. And so I was listening to the song, and then not only did I listen to that song, but I wound up just adding songs to a playlist. And now I have this club mix playlist, which I'll talk about that in a second. So this was Thursday. And so last night, yesterday morning, I was in a training session, and the client that I train, we talk about shows that we both like watch. Like she watches shows with her husband, I watch shows with my wife, and there's like this little, like probably like 5 or 6 shows that both of us watch that we love. And so anytime these shows are coming out again, like sometimes I'll remind her, and sometimes she reminds me. And so there was this show, it's called Nobody Wants This, with Kristen Bell. And there was the one season. So this was the second season that just came out on Thursday. And so we were talking about that yesterday, and I was super excited to watch this show. But it was like a year and a half ago that we watched it, and so there's been a year and a half lapse, and it's finally, so you forget all the characters and stuff, and and it's like we had to go back and watch the last episode of the first season just to even remember what was happening. And so we start watching the show last night, and one of our favorite characters, probably my favorite character in the show, is the older brother. He's not the main character. He's just like kind of like, used sparingly. His role seems to be getting bigger this season. But anyway, his name, we were watching the show, and his wife says his name, and his name is Sash. And I had to I paused it right away, and I said to my wife, I was like, "Yo, you're never gonna believe this." All right, so Sash and Sash. I don't know how many things out there are called Sash, or how many people are named Sash, but that's kind of trippy. And it's like, I was talking to my wife today. I was like, if we would have watched the show first, and it would have been like, I would have heard his name Sash, and it would have reminded me of the song and the group. That wouldn't have really, that would have been like, oh, just because you heard that. But for that song to just come up and just pop up randomly in my head, and then us to start watching this show the next day, and my favorite character in the show named Sash, that's just wild. But the realization today at soccer, first of all, my daughter, this is her first year playing soccer. I guess my voice, I was singing in the car, which I'll get to next. But so my voice is going a little bit. But this is my daughter's first year playing soccer, and she's probably played 6 or 7 games. And I haven't said anything to her. She hasn't scored any goals. And, I talked to her about her play, like, after the game. I'm like, you got to be, just be a little more aggressive, be a little more assertive out there, next time. Like, and so each time she's getting better and better. And she really is. Like, I tell her, like, each week. And there was one week where I'm like, you didn't have it today. You kind of took a step back. So I'm honest. So she knows. And, some people would probably say, like, you shouldn't say that. But I feel like that makes your word, like, when you say things, more powerful, because then somebody knows, like, you're not just telling them what they want to hear. Like, if you're saying it, like, I'll tell her when she didn't play well. So when I tell her that she did play well, now she's like, oh, okay. In the back of her mind, she knows that if she didn't play well, I have no problem with telling her that she didn't play well. And so I tell her, she's getting better and better. And today, she walked over to give my wife her earrings. And as she was walking away, I felt compelled to tell her, I said, Peyton, be aggressive today. And it's the first time I said anything to her before the game. And she goes out and she scored 2 goals today. I don't even think she had a shot on goal this entire season, but she went out and scored 2 goals. And so that was wild. But my wife and I were talking during the game, and she was talking to me about a situation that wasn't, particularly what you would call a feel-good situation. And I'm not going to name names on here, but most of the time this topic comes up, it's usually not a feel-good situation. And so she's talking to me about this, and I kind of like, it's kind of like Groundhog's Day. It's the same thing, like, over and over and over again. And I kind of say the same things, but, it's kind of like on her to, detach. And I've already detached from her not detaching, if that makes any sense. So I'm kind of just laid back when when she talks about it. And so I thought about it, and so I had this epiphany, this realization. I was like, oh my God. I said, topics, any topic that you bring up is like, imagine playing a video game, getting ready to play a video game, and you get to choose the world that you are going to play in. And so when you're choosing a topic, there's millions of things. There's so many things that you could choose to talk about. with somebody if you're having a conversation. And when you choose that topic, you know how that topic, for the most part, you know, or you have an expectation of how that topic is going to make you feel, because you already have certain beliefs about that topic, which we've established are going to be attached to certain emotions. And so when you choose a topic, you are choosing it. When you choose to talk about a topic, for the extent that you choose to talk about that topic, you are choosing to feel those emotions. You are choosing to live in that world for that time period. And so that's where I was like, wow. So we really need to be selective with what we talk about and the topics that we choose, especially if you already know that topic you have negative beliefs about, or you have beliefs that are attached to negative emotions. But if you're watching this, maybe you want to explore that world. Even knowing this, maybe you want to explore that topic so you can go in and learn more about those beliefs. And so I wanted to share that because I thought that was like super powerful when that came to me. And as I said, this is all coming from a neutral space, like this neutral space that I'm in right now. I'm just able to see everything for exactly what it is, because I'm not caught up in any kind of negative emotions or negative, like that negative thought stream, because I'm just able to just detach from it. And I think, and then the last thing I wanted to talk about was my voice. So I dropped my daughter off at Voice, and I'm driving home, and it's absolutely beautiful out. It was cooler this morning, so I had the windows up, but it's like that temperature where if you have the windows up in your car, it gets a little, it's not hot enough to turn the air on, and it's not cool enough to put the heat on. And if you have the windows up, it kind of gets a little stuffy. So I roll the windows down, and I'm listening to my club playlist that I made the other day. And so I'm listening to the song, and normally I'm kind of like, mellow, and like have the music on, but not like too loud. And then once I roll the windows down, I'm looking around at this beautiful day, and I'm like, dude, I'm cranking this. And so I turned it up, and I'm just like flying down the roads in my car, that every once in a while I remind myself, like, wow, this is so great having my new car and not driving that old one. And so I was just enjoying life at that moment and thinking about how this playlist just came about. It was just an inspiration, and it was following it was following my excitement in that moment. Like, there was no reason for me to put together a club playlist, but that was the most exciting thing at that moment. And so I put it together, and then 2 days later, again, I'm reaping what I sowed. I followed my excitement, and then all of a sudden it led to more excitement, which now led to a voice that is kind of fading. But so Lions Den, 4 people checked in yesterday. Brent, Kate, Shadow Flare, and Thankful left a very powerful comment that you might want to go back and read. It was a very scary situation, but she's been applying everything that I've been talking about here. She's been doing the challenges, and she mentioned how that completely changed her perspective when she was faced with this very scary, quote unquote, very scary situation. And she saw it as her mirror. And so instead of being trapped in that and not learning anything from it and not growing from it, she was able to face it head on. And she took the wisdom that she needed to take. And as soon as she did that, the situation just evaporated into thin air. It took care of itself. And that's how it works. So if you haven't read that, I would recommend, there it goes. I would recommend checking it out. Day 177 in the books. I'll see you tomorrow, day 178. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all. Have a wonderful Saturday night.